So, you're a great speaker, but is your business actually working? Most professionals are blocked by their architecture, not their talent. Go to presentinfluence.com and take the strategic speaking business audit. It takes 2 minutes to identify the number one bottleneck stopping you from doubling your bookings, rebookings, and referrals. Find out if you're running a hobby or a business strategy and get your personalized roadmap. That's presentinfluence.com. In this episode, you're going to hear a speaker with 25 years of experience tell me that an article I wrote actually annoyed and offended him. And that moment leads to a conversation about something he really didn't want to hear, that speaker bureaus and conferences are not going to build his speaking business. If you're a brilliant speaker who isn't being paid like one, this episode is going to give you a practical way to start building a speaking pipeline that actually turns into bookings. Most speakers try to get known first by throwing everything they can at social media, usually LinkedIn, right? They chase conferences, bureaus, and visibility and wonder why nothing's really converting. But the harsh truth is, those channels mostly reward people who are already in demand. In this coaching session, I work with Jackson Ogunyemi, a motivational speaker with 25 years of experience, strong results in education, and we talk about a big pivot into corporate. Now, he's got the talent, he's got the message. What he really needs is the engine. You'll hear us talk about helping him land on a hunting niche, building a simple outreach system, and mapping out a realistic daily prospecting routine. So there's no fluff here, no manifest your keynote woo-woo, just what to do this week to start getting responses and paid conversions. Right, let's get into it. But today we are back with another coaching session for you, and we're going to discuss a particular issue, one that he actually first got in touch with me for. Jackson, take it away. Tell me what's going on for you with your speaking business right now and how I might be able to help.
Excellent, great stuff. I've been speaking for over 25 years, love what I do, great at what I do. And for me is you're great at what you do, but you're not getting paid to the level of impact that you make and the influence that you have. And so I was just scrolling randomly as you do on LinkedIn, came across one of your articles that annoyed me and offended me at the same time. And it was just the idea behind you're broke not because you're not good, you're broke because you're not really thinking as a business. So it's that whole phrasing of it's not the best speakers that get paid the best, it's the best marketed speakers get paid. And it just flipped things for me. So for me, that visibility piece is very important.
Absolutely. Many of the world's most talented artists have died in poverty. That's certainly not what we want for speakers, and when there's no real reason for it as well. So tell me a little bit about what you speak about and who you speak to.
Yeah. So for the last 25 years, I've specialized in going into education spaces and doing motivational talks within schools and teachers. So I do a lot of that. And then I started pivoting into corporate spaces as well. The challenge I have is that visibility. Do I stay in education and go all in, or do I go into corporate space, a new world with the same visibility? And so what I speak about is happiness and success. Those are my two key topics. So I'm known as the motivational speaker that really brings the energy and the inspiration into that room to help somebody to unlock their potential, to be happier and more successful.
Okay, those are important things, and that's definitely fulfilling a need that many people don't have in their lives. Weirdly, I probably know more about educational speaking in the US than I do in the UK and Europe because of work that I've done with the Speaker Lab organization. But just from you probably do have a better insight on this than me. What would you say is the speaking potential in the education industry in the UK? What sort of fees you have seen people be able to command there?
The ceiling, I say ceiling, but $5,000 for a keynote to an academy trust. That's probably the most I've actually been able to get from education, where I got to speak in front of 1,200 people for an hour. So I think that $5,000 mark is that, and that's sort of the unicorn of it, I believe. On a regular basis, you're probably looking at 1,000 to 2,000 for a keynote to a group of teachers. The same amount for students as well for the day. So what you get paid for an hour for teachers, you probably charge the same for a day for students. So that's what we're looking at.
Okay. Now, from my perspective, 1 to 2,000, and it's still getting paid, but it's a pretty low speaker fee. And 5K, if that's sort of top range, it's very mid range for most speakers.
Mm.
Are you happy to keep going in the industry knowing that that's sort of the top range for you? Or do you need to explore areas where the range is more open?
I think I would love to explore more where the range is open. The vision is to be able to get paid handsomely enough to not have to milk from education and force them. So when they go through their peaks and troughs, it doesn't affect my income. So definitely would love to explore more opportunities.
Now, I think this may have come up a little bit when we talked before, but for our audience sake, who didn't get to hear that conversation, are you open to speaking outside of the UK and traveling maybe to US, Canada, and other places where speaking fees might actually be higher?
Yeah, definitely. I think that if the message is right and the opportunity is definitely it would be a great opportunity.
Yeah. So my imagination is this, and you can tell me if this is not the case, that you probably want to keep talking on the same things and stay in the same area, but maybe it's time to at least look at where you take that message and who you go to with that. What are some of the possibilities that you are happy to explore in that way?
I think just being able to say, okay, this same message that's good over here, I can take it over here and get paid more. And I'm pretty much ready to. The time is there, the energy is there, the message is there. The frustrating thing is to know that right now I can deliver to a group of CEOs or an organization and it would hit, but they don't know I exist.
Who needs this message, do you think, then in the companies and corporate world?
I think companies focus a lot on performance. They've got to perform well. But if the person that you want to perform at isn't happy with themselves, it's hard for them to perform well. And so for me, I have a big message on happiness first, because happiness is the foundation to success and performance. And so an individual who wants to perform well, but they're not feeling themselves, and because they haven't put their happiness first, that's the kind of person. They're burning out, they're frustrated, they're that life, and they're expected to perform at their best. That's the kind of person.
Okay. So let's maybe think of some specific examples of people in corporate life who are in that position of they need to be or want to be and need to be high performers and sometimes struggling to show up or keep showing up consistently at that kind of level and need a bit of your magic to help them along the way. Who would fit?
The kind of person that would fit, we're probably talking about a middle leader, actually, who has to sort of govern a team. And if I'm not at my best, there's no way I can lead my team to be at their best. So leaders of teams would be definitely a good space to really serve.
Okay, perfect. So that is essentially already starts to narrow things down, and there is potential to narrow down even further.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that as we go, maybe in this session or maybe another time. But you said that people don't really know who you are. So let me ask you this. What do you do currently in terms of marketing yourself as a speaker? I would say, other than what I see on LinkedIn, you seem pretty active on LinkedIn now that we've been connected and I've seen you there. But other than that, what are you doing to promote yourself as a speaker?
I think it's trying to sort of get a list of bureaus and speaking to sort of see if I can get under that, makes things leverage that way. Putting out content is one that I do. But aside from that, those are the two things. I try to sort of put it together, reaching out to conferences to really pitch myself to them directly. But yeah, that's a lot of work. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. That's great. I think that a lot of people find themselves in that position. So this isn't going to be nice to hear, but it is going to be the reality of what's going on with all of that. That conferences are really only interested in booking speakers. So if you get invited into a conference, if you're not already a big name, but haven't sought you out, they may offer you a breakout, they may offer you a workshop, they may offer you an honorarium for doing that, but they're not going to offer you a big fee for doing it. They may even ask you to pay for being there because they're putting you in front of people who might be helpful for you to be in front of. The social media stuff is always good. I mean, being active on LinkedIn is really helpful. The reality about bureaus and these sorts of services, they really want speakers who are established and are known. You need to have already done the work and have the profile for that to be valuable for you, because bureaus are not actively pushing you as a speaker. They will just have you on their books. They want people to be calling in saying, hey, we've seen this guy Jackson and he's great. Can you book him for us? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it hurts, but it makes sense.
It hurts, but this is just like ripping off the band-aid. You don't know what you don't know, but that's how bureaus operate, and just an unfortunate reality. But a lot of speakers think, if I get myself on a bureau, I'll be fixed. But what you actually need is you need an engine for your business. And that's what's missing at the moment. And so I think for me, a few options here, but for me, one of the best ones, usually, especially if you're going to corporates and businesses, is going to be LinkedIn, where you're already active, and to start searching for leads in the areas. And so this is where you may need to narrow things down even more and start finding what we'd call a hunting niche. And this is the sort of company area where you are going to look for opportunity. So if education were actually a better paying option, and it's sad that it should be, the education system should be better funded than it is, but this is the world we live in. But if it were, you could say, right, no, let's focus in on education and find the people to connect with there. If you have other corporate or business experience that might be relevant here, or there's places where you've spoken where you really connected well and people were received well, and so I think, all right, we could go for more of that. It could be tech, it could be banks, it could be pretty much anything, it could be salespeople, but it's really picking the right sort of groups for you to at least be starting to explore and search for opportunity. LinkedIn probably is going to be one of your best sales engines for doing that. So what are your thoughts? I mean, based on your own knowledge and experience, where might you start with what could be some of the options for you as a hunting niche here?
Yeah, I think you're right in sort of finding that platform and going all in with that platform. I've been on there for quite a while, and people have sort of seen what I've done and just booked in 1 or 2 calls. So yeah, I think LinkedIn and diving in to look for maybe, I don't know, whether it's conference organizers or going direct to HR departments.
Yeah. I would say that if you're new corporate, I would probably forget about conferences just at the moment, unless you want that experience. But ultimately, we want to get you paid, and we want to get paid decent amount. And really, with your level of experience, anything below 5K is almost offensive to pay you, to be honest, for what you can deliver on a stage. For the experience that you're at, it should be an easy jump for you to be getting to 10,000 or more per booking. I don't think it will take you long to figure that out with the right places. But let's kind of pick an industry that could be good for you to focus on.
Yeah. I think sales kind of popped into mind because I'm both happiness and energy at the same time. Really. So those two, is that right? Sales, go, Mr. Action Jackson, let's make it happen. Definitely look, if I was going to pivot, that would be an interesting.
Sales teams love high energy, and I think you would be perfect for that kind of environment. With LinkedIn search, you can start finding companies with sales teams and start reaching out to them. You do need to start finding the right people to connect with them. But here's what I say, don't worry too much about that. Sometimes it'll be obvious. You could go to HR, but it's not always HR who do events. You could try and see if they have an events person. But really all you need to do is try and get a contact wherever possible at that place, because then you can send an email to them. Like if they seem like the kind of person who might actually be booking their speakers, you can ask, hey, just reach out to see if you are responsible for booking speakers for your company's events. If they come back and say yes, great, then you follow up. In fact, if you have a phone number, then I would jump straight on the phone. We're all about action, right? Jump straight on the phone, get them on a call. If they say no, you respond back. Could you tell me who is responsible for that? I would love to speak to them. They may come back again and say, I don't know. Again, I would always try and jump on the phone if you can, but go back and say, hey, look, I'd really like to connect with them. Could you help me find out who that is? The main thing you are looking for here is also going to be a response. One of the challenges that people sometimes have in this particular area is you may not get responses in the time frame you would like to get them. or a tool, because sometimes people are overwhelmed or not looking for a speaker right now, or that email doesn't seem relevant to me, whatever, and they may not respond. This is where persistence is going to be your best friend. How do you feel about being persistent with reaching out to them?
Oh, I love that. Definitely. For me, it's just finding different ways to knock on the same door.
Sure. I mean, at this stage, if you haven't had an initial reply, I would pretty much be sending the same message. And certainly you could say, hey, I did send you an email the other week. Maybe you haven't had a chance to respond to it. And you probably want to leave at least a week with the first message, and then maybe go maybe a couple of weeks if you haven't heard back. And then maybe a month later, reach out again. This is where a CRM system, a client resource management tool, is going to be essential for you if you don't already have that. Something like Pipedrive, which does, I think you can do initially for free trial. There's a bunch of these services around. And if you don't, do you have one already? Let me just ask.
I think I'm currently using Zoho.
Okay, I haven't tried that, but if that works for you and that's good for individual CRM and follow-up reminders and that kind of thing, great. That's really what you want at this stage. And keep following up with them. But the point of the first email is all you want is a response. And so you just want a simple question that's a yes or no answer and easy to reply to, not overwhelming them. You don't need to tell them what you speak about. You don't need to send your one sheet or your abstracts or anything like that. Just a simple question that they can respond to. And you want that yes, no answer. And then follow it up, and you can figure out the follow-up a bit after. But I mean, does that sound like something that is doable for you?
Yes, definitely. It's quite practical and something that you can do straight away. So yeah, sounds good.
Prospecting, we talked about the article you read. Big part of that was about this. This is the sales engine for a speaker business. Even if you have bureaus knocking at your door, you still need this. You still need this because they may not still be able to fill your books. They'll get you bookings. They're going to take a commission, of course, and usually that's not huge, but they are going to be taking a cut. And some speakers may get to a point where you don't need that, but nearly always speakers with bureaus, they're hot when they're hot, and when they're not. So you still need an engine to keep the business running, and this is it. And daily prospecting, Monday to Friday, 30 to 60 minutes a day. It's not all reach out all that time. Sometimes it's just finding the people to prospect to. Sometimes it's following up with people you've already reached out to. If there are places you've spoken before where you might like to go and speak again, reach out to them. They're part of your CRM. Put them into the system if they're not already there, and follow up with them. But really all about, this is your system for finding the places to reach out to, reaching out to them and following up with them. And following up with anybody who has responded to you or you've spoken before that you would like to go and speak again.
Makes sense. Sounds really straightforward in terms of just literally knocking on those doors and just keep chipping away. Yeah.
So once you know the kinds of places you want to speak, the sort of sizes of companies, the sort of minimum profit or turnover sort of things you want to get to as well, the people who will be able to afford the kinds of fees that you want, that's going to make it a lot easier. But this is going to be the process to put in place and to start getting consistent daily with.
Sounds amazing.
Let me ask you this. How many speaking gigs would you like to be having each month, and at what sort of price range?
If we're getting the 7 to 10K gigs in a month, if we can get 5 of those, that would be a very good,
That would be a pretty nice month. So if you were getting somewhere between 35 and 50,000 for a bunch of gigs in 1 month, that would look like a pretty nice month, right?
Very good month.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I do think it's doable. It will take time to build up to that, but this is going to be the engine that does that. There are things that might put you off about it in terms of it can be a bit slow. One of the questions I got before, and I will also pre-answer this for you, is if you're not getting much response from people in that industry, or if you've a particular industry, you're not getting much response from them, you may need to start trying other hunting niches. Sometimes some areas just are not very responsive, and sometimes they may not be responsive because they're not booking a lot of speakers. So sometimes they might be checking you out. It might just be you getting hold of the wrong people. There are so many things that could slow down the progress for you. But one of the things that stops a lot of speakers from doing this consistently, and that persistence thing we talked about, is feeling like you're going to be a pain in their butt doing it.
Yeah.
Like they're going to get fed up of hearing from me. And so here's what I say to that. Good if they do, because what are they going to do about it? If they respond to you and say, hey, could you stop emailing me? They probably won't, to be honest. But if they respond to you and say, hey, could you stop emailing me? You say, hey, look, I'll stop emailing you if you tell me you booked your speaking gigs. You don't have to be a dick about it. You just need to be, all right, yeah, I'm just going to stay persistent, but I'm going to stay professional and I'm going to stay friendly with it. The chances are, if they do get fed up of seeing your emails, and let's face it, how many emails do we all get all the time? If you see someone keeps popping up your email, chances are more like, I've never responded to this guy. He keeps sending me emails. I should respond to him. And that's probably the level of fed up they're going to get about your emails. Generally, people won't get more pissed off than that. And if they do, so what? Your goal is a response from them. We're always going to feel worse about the amount. I'm sending them so many emails. What are they going to think of me? It's us who feel worse about it than they ever will.
Very true. That makes a lot of sense. There's shifting that mindset to say it's okay to be a pain in the butt.
It is, and you probably won't be. The reality is you probably won't really get to that stage, because it's very easy. Kind of anything that you just leave and don't respond to for a while, you just know at some point, if they keep coming back, I'm going to have to respond to this. It's just too much. They're too persistent. I'm going to have to respond. And that's not a terrible position to get to, but that is potentially the level of persistence that you may need to have in a lot of cases here.
Very true.
The amount of prospecting you do with one place is entirely up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will hardly ever take a place off their CRM and I will keep going with them until I get a response, and then until I get a booking, which sometimes could take years of follow-up. In some situations, not in most, thankfully. That's up to you. Some people will be, maybe they can stay on me for a few months, but if I don't hear back from them in that time, let's cross them off.
Good. Makes sense. I think that persistence and just keep chipping away at it until you get the response. Yeah. And interesting, it's a different headspace as a speaker. Once you cross over to speaking business, your keynote is the product, and you got to push that product. And I think that shift, it makes a lot of sense for that.
I'm also not going to say here that this is the only thing that will get you bookings. This is the engine that will drive your speaking business. But things like networking at the events you do speak, getting there early and mixing with people, sometimes even, let me ask you this. I have a few minutes and I want to make sure you get value of this. Is speaking the only thing that you're looking to offer here? Or are you maybe thinking about other things like workshops, consulting, any other sort of offerings?
Yeah, so there's the speaking, and I do the speaking. I also do public speaking training as well. So there's other pieces that I have. So there's the speech, and then there's workshops that I do conduct. Yeah.
Okay, great. Communication skills could go over very well in sales environments as well.
Okay.
If you haven't already come across this guy, is a friend of mine. We've worked together before as well, and he speaks in this area too. A speaker called Ravi Rajani.
Okay.
And he's great, like yourself, very energized, does very well in sales environments. And he does do those sort of workshops with sales teams on communication skills, on speaking and communication, and does very well with that. In fact, I'd say he's someone that's very well worth you checking out. And he might be listening to this as well. In fact, he's going to be coming on. We're trying to arrange coming on onto my show soon to have a chat about what he's doing at the moment. But he's a really great example of someone who manages that engine of his business, has picked a nice specific area to go and speak at, has matched that with his energy and style, which is somewhat similar to yours, and really knows what he's doing there. Is getting the big fees, he's getting seen and recognized. But what he hasn't done is tried to build all the profile on LinkedIn and everywhere else, social media stuff first. He's built his speaking business first, and now he's building his online profile built on that. And I think that is the better way to do it. You need to fix where the leak is first before you start adding more things on. Solve the foundational parts before you build on top of it. So That's a great way to think about this. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do any of those other things. It just means they shouldn't be a primary focus potentially at this stage. Won't necessarily hurt you, but it's not going to get you the results. It's probably going to leave you feeling a little more frustrated than you like to be, that it's not getting you as far as it seems to get some other people.
Yes, of course. Makes sense.
Perfect. So let's wrap things up. What are you most taking away from our conversation today?
That hunter niche and going after that and creating that pipe drive sort of system and just keep knocking until you get some kind of yes. And I love this call. It's been very practical, not sort of like idea woo-woo. Is that right? I can come off this call now, go and apply it and actually start looking for results. So watch out for me coming back to you to say, John, guess what?
I want to hear that. I definitely want to hear that. When it starts working and it starts coming into play, all the results start coming through, I definitely want to hear it and I want to celebrate that with you.
Yes.
And maybe bring you back, tell us all about it at some point in the future.
No, that sounds good. It's been very, very practical. Thank you so much, John, and to all our listeners.
Thanks, Jackson.
Excellent.
Here's what I hope you'll take from this session. Bureaus aren't going to build your business for you. Conferences aren't going to discover you. What they can do is amplify momentum that you've already created. If you want consistent fees and consistent bookings, you need an engine, a hunting niche, a list, a follow-up system, resilience, and the emotional maturity to stay politely persistent when people don't reply. Jackson's next move was pretty simple. Pick sales teams as the initial hunting niche, use LinkedIn as the lead source, keep the first message friction-free, and track follow-ups properly so nothing leaks. If you could use some help figuring out your niche, building up your list, working on your outreach messages, or getting your prospecting moving, that's the work I do with professional speakers inside my coaching program. Visit presentinfluence.com to find out more. If you'd like to be coached on the show for free like Jackson, you'll find the link in the show notes, or you can email me directly, john@presentinfluence.com, and I'll send you the application form link. And if you do all the work and it starts landing, let me know. Tell me. I love a good guess what happened after I took action, John kind of message. And one last thing before you go. Jackson mentioned earlier that he first reached out to me after reading an article I had written that annoyed and offended him, but in a useful way. If you enjoy ideas that challenge how speakers think about their business, I share articles like that regularly in my LinkedIn newsletter. It's free to sign up to, and my articles are not written to make you comfortable, they're written to be useful. Sometimes the ideas land gently, and sometimes they're going to poke you in the eye. But if they help you think differently about your speaking business, they've done their job. It's free to sign up to. There's no email list to join. Just come and find me on LinkedIn through the link in the show notes if you would like to read them. Maybe you can even find the article that offended and upset Jackson so much. So wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you next time on Professional Speaking. You might hear speakers say podcast guesting doesn't move the needle. Often they're right, but not because podcasting doesn't work, because they're doing it without strategy. Sending generic pitches, saying yes to any show, having nice conversations that don't build authority. That's noise, not positioning. If you want podcast guesting to build your reputation and generate real ROI, you need a system. My private audio masterclass, Strategic Podcast Guesting for Speakers, shows you exactly how to position yourself, sharpen your message, and pitch quality hosts properly. You can listen to the first 3 episodes for free and immediately fix your tech and positioning. If you like it, unlock the full 9-module system, including my pitch templates and toolkits, for the special launch price of just $95. Go to presentinfluence.com/podcast guest to get started.